Yo, what's up, guys? It's Alex Kerr. I'm here with Alexei Pavlov. He is the founder and CEO of Learn to Cut, and he is one of our private clients. We have had a very large impact on Learn to Cut's business, and the results are quite amazing. He doubled his revenue from 200K per month to just shy of 400K per month in about a 9 to 12 week period. He also 2.5x'd his client capacity, 125% increase in community posts. We also have a 64% decrease in churn, which is pretty crazy. And over the last from July till September, we retained $110,000 from that churn rate reduction. We also had a 1,566% increase in client success, which is absolutely phenomenal. That's shown in case studies, testimonials, wins posted, all this good stuff. And so what we're going to be doing in today's video is talking about how exactly we did that. So the purpose of this, like we give away the farm on these videos. And so we're going to get quite deep into, the technical side of things, the strategic side of things. And of course, there's a lot of stuff that we covered that's outside of client success as well. So we'll talk about that too. And before you watch this, if you want to see how the actual work itself happened, Alex had and currently has a client success director, and his name is Dawson. And Dawson was my right-hand man through this whole process. And he was the one who really drove the entire project. And so we get a lot more technical on the client success side of things in his interview, which is on the channel. You can watch it. There's going to be a link down below. And with this video, I'm probably going to focus more so on the executive side of things because that's where our focus was with Alex. But without further ado, let's jump into things. So, Alex, where was your business before we started working together?
Dude, I think I like to say this story, but the way I found you was crazy. Well, I
Yeah.
think you I
Yeah.
went down the deep dark web. And at first, I'll be honest, like I've taken a lot of, for people that don't know this, I've spent $500,000 on programs. Like you could probably think of any coaching offer there is in the industry right now. I've probably spent money on it. And you were the hardest person to find. It was like a referral to a referral about this like random guy named Alex Kerr that I had to go through Twitter, and then there was like barely a funnel. I had to like scroll down and find you. Reason why I'm saying this is because there was a lot of doubt. Like whenever like I had to find you, I was like, how is this possible? There's no way this guy knows what he's doing. Ended up jumping on a call. Within the first call, I ended up spending the money because everything you touched up on was exactly where I was at and exactly what I needed. So when we jumped on the call, churn was at I think about 30%. We had I knew client success wasn't where I wanted to be. And I knew I didn't have the experience to be able to lead Dawson to be able to manage that entire department. So a lot of it came down to not knowing what I needed to do with the client success side, and I needed guidance from someone that had done it. And obviously, you having the experience with publishing.com and just you pinpointing exactly what the problems were before I even mentioned it was like, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. And I think I pretty much paid for your knowledge and information to be able to lead Dawson in the right way so he can manage the team. But when I called you, dude, I was like in a bit of a mess. 30% churn. We had a lot of people just not happy. Community, there was no one engaging in the community. Right now, our program's on fire. I truly think we have the best program in the world. We have people within the program. I don't know if it leads to the next question, which is like where you at currently, but I kind of want to do touch up on that. And then I'm sure you have some more specific
Yeah,
questions.
go
But
for it, man.
right now, dude, we got people in the program that are not like CSMs that are coaching other students that just signed up, right? So you're having a community of people that are just helping each other just based off of will in wanting the community to grow. So it's just such a beautiful thing to see because we never had that before. And it's not like we had more people and that's the reason why. It's just because the way Dawson kind of managed the business and the way he's led the CS team has led to these um pretty much answers.
Yeah, and if people want to know specifically how we increase the community engagement, there is a few things. And again, we talk about it in detail in the interview with Dawson. It's linked down below. You can watch it there, but we'll talk about it here too. The first thing was the onboarding call. And so the onboarding process, I think a lot of people see onboarding as a nice to have and not a need to have. And I think also as successful entrepreneurs, we tend to forget the value of money, especially in a B2C context, right? Like the clients have learned to cut are not making a massive amount of money when they're first joining the program. These are normal guys. They're barbers, and so their goal is to get to like 10 to 15K per month, and the price of the program is a very significant expense for them, and we have to be able to deliver that. And so what ends up happening when someone purchases a high ticket program in a business to consumer context is they get a kind of a weird feeling after they pay, $3,000, $4,800, whatever it is, and they don't know if this was the right decision to make because they've likely never done something like this before. If they have, it probably hasn't worked out. I mean, to Alex's point earlier, he spent over $500,000 in the info product industry. And yeah, I mean, he's gotten some results for sure, and it's definitely helped, but it hasn't been, you know, have most of those programs delivered? No.
No.
In fact, the whole reason why Alex started working with me in the first place is because he was a referral from a client success director of a previous program, and that program was not delivering the results. And I know this guy, and they were, unfortunately, previous clients of mine. And so then, of course, the referral happened and we fixed the problem. But point being is that in a B2C context, there's kind of like this cloud that comes over the client's head where they just start doubting everything. Of course, it's called buyer's remorse. And that actually shows itself in the way that they invest in the program with their action, right? Things kind of get slow. They're skeptical. They're kind of looking for reasons why it's not going to work instead of reasons why it's going to. And on a client success level, it's our responsibility to lead their experience. We have to take ownership of the thoughts that they're thinking when they join the program. And the onboarding call is our opportunity to do that. And so, of course, we fixed the onboarding system itself on a technical level that allows the sales team to be able to drive as many clients into the client success pipeline, meaning people getting onboarded and going through the program without any bottlenecks. That's huge. Next thing though is like how to run the actual call, right? And so that was a big thing that we talked about. And what we did specifically to increase the community engagement is what you want to do is you reinforce behaviors that you want clients to do. That's basically what a coaching program actually is. It's a behavioral change process, and you're looking for new patterns of behavior that you want to continue to grow. And so there's things that we need from them for their success, right? And a big part of that is them engaging in the community. And so there's a specific way that you want to communicate that to clients that gets them incentivized to do so. And one of those incentivizations is we started doing contests, which, if you don't execute those properly, they kind of just feel lame and cheesy. But the way that we did works very well. Um, and over time, as you continue to invest and you continue to onboard more clients, the community just starts to grow. It's kind of like a farm or gardening or planting trees. You got to be patient with it, but once it comes, it stays as long as it stays alive. Um, and so to Alex's point as well, like these clients are coaching each other. And what's cool is that because they're getting coached by the CS team first on their one-on-one calls and the group calls in the course, the stuff they're saying for the most part is correct. And that's free for us. So that increases our client capacity, that increases morale. They start building relationships. And ultimately, when we're talking about building a retention centric financial model where we're getting as much money from the clients as we possibly can while delivering results, we need them to be stuck in the community. That's a term in the business space, is having a sticky product, right? And the thing that makes people in communities stick are relationships. And so I think a lot of times when people are asking, like, why aren't people engaging in the community? It's like they would if they thought it was worth it for them.
Yeah.
And what makes it worth it for them are real relationships that we can help facilitate. So I know that was a bit of a tangent there, but I do want to just kind of color what we mean when we say increasing community engagement and how we specifically did that. But anyways, so yeah, we had a 30% churn rate, right?
Dude, yeah.
Not
Well,
good.
why don't you ask what it is now?
It's zero.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's zero. At least it has been for the past 2 or 3 months.
Not only is it zero, but we're making money from backend now, which we never did. So, I mean, Alex helped me with building out a backend offer, which was a $9,800 offer with Dawson, which um within the first month that we launched, we already closed two deals, which is the second week of December or first week of December. So, yeah, man, like here's the thing which people don't really realize is that client success isn't the prettiest thing to wanna get better at. It's not the everyone wants to learn how to scale from front end, but it's the thing that you don't realize that it's like the foundation of your business. I mean, I think I'm very grateful and thankful that I realized like if we fix this thing, everything else will just fix on its own, right? So, because everyone wants to invest in programs for sales, everyone wants to invest programs in whatever it is that they think that is required to scale the business, but they're not realizing the biggest bottleneck is always going to be, in my opinion, it's like what Hermosi says, it's the product, right? And if your product isn't good, which is client success, forget about like you're just going to have issues. You're not going to be able to scale, in my opinion, if your product isn't good. And that's what we wanted to focus on.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think the other thing about this too is that I think people forget that client success touches every single department in the business in regards to driving revenue, right? In fact, where you see the increase in revenue actually shows up on the front end first, usually. And that's by increasing the client capacity on the sales side through the onboarding process. It's by getting more testimonials and case studies that we can use for marketing. We can use it for sales. Also, too, once the sales team, this is actually a big topic as well, is the relationship between sales and client success. The sales team, their job is to drive the belief that the thing that they're selling is going to fix the problem for whoever they're on the call with. And the way that they actually can personally believe that is through us fulfilling on our promise, which is client success. And so when you arm the sales team with real results and real case studies and real sales assets, that allows them to have an actually solid belief that what they're going to do is to change this person's life. And that's really, really key. Close rates go up, conversion rates go up from top and middle of the funnel stuff. Like it's very, very wide reaching as far as the impact that client success has. And the other thing about it too is it's not always a direct measurement. Like you have to be able to kind of look through the weeds and pick up on patterns that aren't super obvious to see, oh, this actually came from, this the back end of the business. And of course, there's the back end sales as well, which you mentioned. And we have close to $3 million in the client success pipeline right now, which is amazing. That's obviously a lot of money that wasn't there before. Dawson has a 75% close rate. The reason why he has a 75% close rate on those back end sales is because he delivered on the front end with those clients. And I say this a lot too, is like a back end sales call is just a sales call, but it should be way easier because you're armed with all the client
It's the
success
same with the
information.
sales call. Yeah,
No,
exactly.
it's just like, what's next?
Yeah.
That's basically what it is. And so, yeah, I think it is really important.
Here's another thing I want to touch up on. When you create such a strong community, the last thing they want to do is not be a part of that community. It's like they
Exactly.
finally feel like they're a part of a tribe, and if you take that away from them, it's like, no, 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 like I still want to be here. So you just got to figure out what to offer them at that point because they still want to be a part of that community. And that's what we've done now. It's like people love the community aspect on top of the product, on top of the coaches, on top of yada yada yada. It's now we have such a strong community. It's like they just want to feel like they're a part of a tribe. And it's just a matter of just offering them different products so they could just stay based on where they're at, right? And what they need.
Right. So let me ask you this. I'm curious to hear this. What was we've worked together for almost 6 months now, right? And so we've had a lot of one-on-one coaching calls. We also have we're partnered with Impact Ops. So my partner Jordan has been very involved in providing executive coaching. I have been as well. So we've touched on a lot of things. We've also been enhancing the funnel itself on the front end. So we haven't just been working on the back end. What for you has been the most useful part of the entire experience?
To be honest, straight up, I would say me being the CEO and having to initially, right? I was I spent a lot of time in different departments from marketing to sales to client success and coaching Dawson. I wasn't able to free up my time to be able to focus on the things that I was really good at and the things that I knew that I could, which is like the 80-20 rule. Where do I put 20% of the focus, which is going to drive 80% of the results? And that was through marketing that I needed to focus on. So what I would say the biggest impact was when you started coaching Dawson and I started having more time to myself to focus on the things that I knew were going to drive the most amount of traffic into the business. I would say that was the biggest impact. And further than that, it's like you had 10 years of experience in client success. So I knew it's just like we just skipped 5 years of bullshit to get to where we needed to get to. That's really what I paid for. It's like your knowledge and information to be able to like figure this thing out.
And so what does your workflow look like now in regards to how you manage the client success department?
I jump on the call with them once a week when in the past I was like on a call with them like every single day, 2, 3 hours a day, figuring out things. And realistically, I'll be honest, like not being efficient on the calls and just like wasting time and not having clarity on what I needed to speak on and what we needed to work on. So now it's like Dawson comes to me and tells me this is what we're working on, rather than me being like, this is what, like, he's leading the client success department. Like, I'm barely spending any time because now he's taken full ownership of that department. And you've created such a good leader where he's coming to me and being like, this is what we got to work on. This is the next steps. And I'll be honest, my client success department is the strongest department in our entire company. That literally is like the client success department now is telling the sales team like, dude, like you guys got to do better. We're like closing at 75%. So yeah, man, I think that's the answer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. They have a running joke on the CS side that they're going to replace the sales team.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I mean, they definitely have the skill set to do that if they wanted to. I don't think that's the best move as far as, what the
The
business
close,
needs,
yeah.
but they're capable of doing so. I definitely believe in that, which is kind of funny. So they
But
can do that on the back
here's
end.
the thing that's the most important. I think like money is great, guys. At the end of the day, like genuinely, I mean it when I say this is the impact we've had on people. Like people are, and I've had less stress because people are coming to us being like, dude, this has genuinely been the best program in my life. It's been and people are coming to us being like, this is life changing. Like we're getting testimonials every day. The whole client success department is just so happy to be there because they're having conversations with students that are motivated, they're hungry, and that's because of how they're leading the conversations through the calls, which has been through the coaching you've done with Dawson. And Dawson is taking that information, passing it down to the client success department. Like the last call we had last week, Dawson messaged me. He's like, dude, our entire team's on fire. Everyone's now being proactive, giving ideas. Like they're all just kind of working in sync, you know. So that's probably been the best part about it. It's like, yeah, money's great, but everyone knows like 100,000, 200,000, the feeling ain't gonna change. It's gonna feel good for a couple minutes, and then you're all on to the next thing we got to work on. The best thing is the impact we've had on people. So, yeah,
Yeah, of course. And I think one of the key things here too is that you mentioned it before, like the most useful thing is we freed up your time, right? That was one of the initial goals that we set out when we first started working together was to remove you from the day to day of client success. And we have definitely done that, which is the thing that I'm most proud of in regards to its impact on you specifically. There's Dawson, there's the rest of the CS team, there's the clients, there's the business itself, all the like we had different goals for each of those factors, right? But for you, I wanted you to be able to confidently not necessarily step away, but just shift your focus to where the company actually needs it, which is on marketing, driving front end revenue. Really, that's really what it comes down to, and then leading the your executive team, right? And I think it's really powerful that we were able to do that in really only took about 3 months.
yeah.
And the past 2 months has just been more so continued skill building and maintenance. But yeah, I'm very, very proud of that. So I'm curious, what would you say was the most challenging part of the process?
I have it. The most challenging part was the start of our process. Coming back to what I said initially, I spent $500,000 on programs. I was just telling myself, is this another one of those? Right. Um, it was just a trust issue. I was like, because again, a lot of it came down to planning and having a conversation with you guys, and then we started executing it. So initially, the hardest part was just the trust of like, are these guys going to actually deliver based on what you guys are saying? Because you guys, based on what you said initially, it was exactly what I needed. But because in the past, and I've spent so much money on courses, I was like, everyone's promised me so much, and they just didn't deliver. So it was the start. It was just that conversation we had initially of like, okay, this is what we're going to work on. And I'm like, fuck, this sounds exactly what I need. And all I was like thinking of within the first month, it was like, are they going to really deliver? Because if they can, this is going to be an amazing business. It's going to help with a lot in regards to, what we need moving forward. So yeah, I think it was just the start of it, the trust part. And then when we started slowly seeing progress, I was like, and it wasn't slowly seeing progress. I think the second month we pretty much had 1% churn. I was like, oh shit, okay. that's different. You know what I mean? Something's working here. So yeah, I would say
Do you remember a specific moment where you were able to actually trust? Again, I know you just mentioned like the churn rate going down within the first month.
yeah, I
But
would say Dawson coming up to me and being like, dude, this is what we're working on now. And just him having full clarity from, because we would have conversations of like, yo, what do I need to work on? And him coming to me and being like, dude, I feel like I'm not as productive as I could be. Now, why he's saying that is because he wasn't getting clear directions from me on what he should be working on. So the lack of clarity came from the lack of productivity from him and him being stressed out on what to do. Now, dude, the guy has like his next 6 months already like lined up and ready to kill it. So now he's like I said, he's taken full ownership and he knows exactly what he needs to do. He doesn't come to me anymore and be like, what should I be working on next?
what do you think this would have been like if you had to do all of this work instead of Dawson?
I just don't think we'd be making as much money. Why? Because I'd be spending time on things like again, it's the 80/20 rule. I would end up and I still think it would just be a big waste of time. It would be like the hamster in the hamster wheel. It would be consistent conversations about the same bullshit and nothing would be moving that we wouldn't be moving the needle forward. So now this time we have full clarity on the CS department. Now, what's the next bottleneck? Okay, let's focus on this thing because the CS side where it's taken care of. It's its own engine that's just running, right? Um, so yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I mean, I think from my experience, I think it's probably the thing that's overlooked the most is having a proper lead on the CS side. And there's always sales team leads. There's always guys that are running the marketing, but typically it's just coaches, and then the founder gets on calls and does their best to manage them, right? And it typically doesn't. It certainly doesn't reach the potential that we see here, where now they're driving back in revenue. They're getting crazy client results. Um, I think
Yeah.
getting a proper client success director is one of the biggest needle movers you could
Yeah.
do in your business for sure.
Honestly. I mean, the other thing is like comes down to ethics as well, where it's like as a CEO, you should just want to make your product better. It's like that's why I invested. Like it comes down to like me wanting people to win. Like I did this because I'm like, I just know we could have an incredible product and make a big impact in people. And the result of me wanting to do that was me making more money because I cared about the community. I cared about people in our program. So yeah, it's like I wanted to invest in my program so people could drive better results, which would then generate more money.
Right. And so I think that's a key thing to note as well of like when we talk about getting back end revenue, right? It's not this extractive process where we're trying to, get as much money from the clients as possible. We don't give a shit about what their client results are. It's it's earned revenue from us delivering the promise on the front end. And also too, that's the fuel that the money that we get from them is the fuel for us to continue to deliver results. I think that's really the key thing there, right? Um it's not an ethical decision for us to be working for free at a certain point either, because we're not able to deliver to them what they actually deserve in that scenario. We're bleeding, they're getting all of the value. And that happens a lot, right? When you have like lifetime access to like coaching calls and group calls and stuff like this, it also eliminates the urgency that clients have in order to get the work done inside the program if there's no deadline. So I think that's definitely like an important note here for people to understand. Like the back end revenue is earned based on the value that's provided on the front end. Like it's a very, very simple thing, actually, at the end of the day. But of course, and this can go into the next one here is like you need a system to be able to support that, right? Like being able to do this stuff in kind of a reactionary or an ad hoc way can kind of work in the beginning. But when you're operating at a multi six figure scale, you need an actual system to be able to manage your clients. And so let's talk about that. So, how were you guys managing your clients before you started working with us?
Through Google Calendar and an Airtable. And
Right.
then we
And
worked with Jordan, and then Jordan
yep.
kind of built the entire system for us. I mean, at the end of the day, I think the biggest impact, and I'm sure you'll go into specifics, Alex, is that the bottom line is I was working with A-level people, right? And people that knew how to run. I mean, your experience was publishing.com. Jordan's experience was all these like 8 to 9 figure businesses he's worked with. You guys knew what it took to get to that 9 figure level, 8 to 9 figure level. So it's like I'm not gonna say it was baby food for you guys, but you guys knew exactly what you needed to work on. There was full clarity on like this is the issues in the business, and you started building those out. Rather than me not knowing because I haven't reached that like I'm not an 8-figure CEO, I'm not a 9-figure CEO. I was like, let me pay in advance for these guys that have the experience on how they built these businesses to come in and tell me exactly what I need, and then learn from that, right?
Right.
So
And so, yeah, to provide context too, on like Jordan Impact Ops, my job in the whole relationship when we do these kinds of projects is I design the system, I architect the way that it needs to look specific to the client's program. That information is determined based off of a 3 to 4 week audit process where I comb through every single part of the client's business that I possibly can. That includes going through every course lesson, going through the funnel as though I was a potential client, doing mystery shopper sales calls, which is a pretty interesting experience, getting onboarded as though I were a client, and then doing a systems audit. So I'm going through, like in this case, it was the Airtable system and the Google Calendar stuff. And, I'm watching coaching call recordings. I'm shadowing these coaching calls. Like I'm interviewing clients, I'm interviewing the team. I'm getting as much information as I could possibly need to be able to come to an accurate perception as to what's actually going on here. Because I think there's actually a pretty big distinguishing factor in the stuff that we provide versus everyone else. Because when you go through a coaching program, a normal one at least, you talk to, like if you're the founder, you're going to talk to a coach, right? And their information, their perception of your business is based on the stuff that you tell them. And that is an inherent flaw because you're coming to them because you don't know what's going on. You're stuck, you have a problem. And if your only source of information is the person who doesn't know what they're doing, or at least they don't know what the next step is, they know how they got to this point, but they want to go further and they don't see the path ahead, you're inherently at a disadvantage, right? And so to speak to that trust factor, right? Like, I
and
don't
a lot of
trust.
their information is very like standardized. Like they're basing it off of like they're generalizing it, right? They're not really like they don't know the niche, they don't know the offer itself. Where you just dove deeper into, you're like, okay, you're telling me all this, but I want to know for myself based on the data once I go into your business and figure out what's really happening.
Right, exactly. Like I can't take the information that the client shared with me at the beginning at face value. I just can't. It's never true. Like in 100% of cases, whatever the perception is never the 100% truth. It just can't be just by default. And so after that happens, of course, like I said, we design the system, we recreate the client journey. And so what that looks like specifically is the action steps that clients need to take from the moment that they are closed inside the program to the moment where, in our case now, they're ready to be upsold into the next program. And so we have to define what success looks like. And the way that we do that is whatever qualifies the client to be sold into the back end offer is what our target is. And in this case, it's 15K per month, right? So then we just ask the question, what does a client need to do in this specific program to get to 15K per month? We write that out in action steps in a sequential order. That becomes the optimized version of the course lessons. And so if there's anything that's getting in the way between the moment that they're closed to getting the 15K per month as quickly and easily as possible, we either delete it or reposition it. And then once you optimize that flow, then we're ready to put it into the actual system. And the way that I design the systems is that the stages in the client, it's a pipeline. And so they can get set up in any CRM, it can get set up in Airtable. It really doesn't matter. However, I do prefer having it inside of CRMs because you have access to the sales data on the front end. We have that synchronized relationship between sales and client success, and they speak to each other. And so the client success team is much more prepared to be able to serve that client. And also, too, the client success pipeline is a sales pipeline. And so if we have pipelines on the front end, we need a pipeline on the back end. And so the stages of that pipeline are the milestones in that client journey, which is basically the moments where clients just hit significant parts of inside the program where it's worth tracking. It's typically points where we want to collect the work that they did. Um, like in Alex's case, for example, we focus mainly on building their hairstyling skills in the beginning of the program, and then once they pretty much level up to the point where they're worthy of actually marketing their skill set, that's when they focus on improving their Instagram. And then from there, that's when their the revenue that they make starts to increase because they're getting more people through the front door and they're able to increase their prices. They can work with more people because less people are going to be able to afford those prices. So the capacity increases. You work with less clients, make more money. That's awesome. And so an example of one of these stages is like we're going to track their specific progress through a specific style of cutting hair that they need to be able to master. They're going to turn in a video. The client success manager gets access to that. They review it, send them a loom, move on to the next stage in the pipeline. And so from the clients submitting their work inside the program asynchronously through forms at those course lessons, they then move to the next stage in the pipeline automatically. We're tracking the course lessons that they watch and we're tracking the work that they do, which is very important. Once clients hit certain stages in the pipeline from enough data, we can then send off tasks to the CS team to drive referrals, back end sales calls, testimonials, case studies, whatever we need from the client, and whatever the data says is the most likely to happen based on other people moving through the CS pipeline. And so that is the system that we installed. And I mean, you can watch the interview about how that system's impacted the CS department from Dawson specifically because he's the one that owns and manages that system. But what it allows Alex to do is through a dashboard to be able to just look inside of the system and see where exactly the client success department is at any given time in the business. You can look in the past, you can look today, you can project things into the future. And it again provides that security and that data driven awareness as to what's actually going on, which can then allow you to properly focus without feeling like, your business is falling apart essentially. And so, a couple things on that. I know that was a tangent. Not people have awareness as to what we're talking about when we say system, right? Because I know it's kind of a amorphous term. You have an operator in your business, and the operator um, while we set up systems and we build them initially, there's an iterative process. And typically, as through our own adoption phase of the system installation, it makes the most amount of sense to have the operator be trained on how to build and maintain these systems so that you're not dependent on us moving forward. Right. And so, Jordan specifically, him leading the actual building on a technical level of the system was very involved in the training of your operator as well. So, what was that experience like for you to have Jordan train Abel specifically?
Yeah, man, incredible, super valuable. At the end of the day, Jordan, again, similar to you, just had a lot of experience. He's just the business guru. All he cared about was just growth. Like, I think the main thing as well is that you guys over delivered. Like, there was times where I needed a phone call from you guys, and I got coached and mentored through some of the stuff you guys were talking to me about. So, yeah, I think you guys over delivered. Jordan over delivered. The guy, I mean, I don't know if I should be saying this, but I would call the guy like at midnight and he'd answer the phone, just based on questions I had. So it was just no other experience or coaching program has delivered to that level. But what the experience was like with my operator was again coming with full clarity. Myself, Jordan, and Abel, my operator, we jumped on a call. Jordan pretty much laid out the projects, created the KPIs for the operator, and we just were in sync in regards to like what he needed to deliver on. And he kind of operated as well as a CFO for the business and just making sure we kept Abel accountable. So coaching me through that to make sure that Abel was doing his job, I think was super valuable as well. So, um, yeah, man, like there's so much to say. I could ramble for another like 2 hours about it, but yeah, over
Yeah,
delivered.
well, I think too there was one interesting thing that happened as well, which I think was a very significant part of the experience was we brought someone into the CS team who had to get fired, and that caused quite the situation. And so, without giving too much detail on who the person is and anything that could be sensitive information in that regard, would you mind sharing just a little bit about that experience and how we supported you through that?
Yeah, I mean, it was a very stressful time. We ended up getting someone in, just didn't end up working out. And realistically, we had to make a pivot quite quickly because there was a lot of people that were expecting phone calls with them and yada yada yada. So we Dawson really handled it like an animal. We just pretty much were like all hands on deck for a couple hours and jumped on a few calls, and you're like, okay, this is exactly what we needed to do. And I think, like, I mean, where we stand today, this happened a month ago. I thought the business was going to crumble because of the situation. And we expected churn to be, we expected to have churn. We expected clients to not be happy, but we handled it like bosses, to be honest. No one mentioned anything. Everything was fine. And at the end of the day, you want to be in a position where you're not reliant on people as well and reliant on systems. Where if a situation like this happens, this is where it sometimes gets scary as well, where it's like, um, if you lose A-level people, then you don't want the business and the revenue of the business to be generated by those individuals, and you want to be reliant on systems. And that's why systems are so important, because you can always find new people to replace people realistically. So it was good that we had a system for that, and nothing bad came out of that situation except
Yeah.
for a little stress.
Well, it could have resulted in hundreds of thousands of dollars in refunds and disputes because he was owning high level clients, so that was really beyond just creating a bad client experience and perhaps tarnishing the reputation. There was real money at stake, right? And yeah, we handled the situation very well. And it was actually kind of fun, honestly, because that's kind of stuff doesn't happen very often. But when it does, it's serious. And of course, having the whole team aligned and having this, all hands on deck situation is, it can be exciting. So, um, I'm curious if someone wants to achieve a similar level of success to you, and we can go in any direction with this as well, by the way. Um, what would be one piece of advice you would give them to not do that would keep them from seeing the level of success that you have?
What not to do? Oh, I have the answer. Don't make decisions emotionally. Look at the truth in every department. Look at the data. The data will never lie. And always seek the truth, right? The truth is based on the data, right? So I think a lot of CEOs operate emotionally. It's based on feeling. I feel like the sales department isn't performing. I feel like my client success team sucks. I feel that ain't gonna give you the answers. Feelings is emotions, and you need to find the truth. And I think how you find the truth is based on systems, right? And it's the things that we spoke about in the data you guys provided, which then made me realize, okay, this is what the issues are. This is the real issues, right? Um, yeah, I think that's the biggest one. I think we could both agree to that. I think that's probably the biggest factor for any
Yep,
successful business.
I would agree. I would agree for sure in the power of a data-driven approach and also just valuing the truth as well. I mean, I think emotions can point in the right direction as far as what the truth is, but it doesn't tell the full story. You need to have that integrated with whatever the numbers are saying because they don't tell the full story either in isolation. You have to be able to merge both and be able to think critically about the information that's presented to you, and then you make a decision, right? And so, yeah, I would totally agree. That's definitely one of the big things that I would also personally tell people to avoid is to have rash or emotional decisions. Um, you've scaled your coaching business to multi six figures per month in less than 12 months. Knowing everything that you know now, is there anything different on a tactical level that you would do to get yourself to where you're at now quicker?
Hire you guys sooner, genuinely.
That's nice.
On a tactical level, hire you guys sooner. Everyone always like, I don't think there's a real answer of like, at what point do I spend and invest that much money? Like, how much money should I be generating? Where should my profits be before I start investing heavily? Like, you guys weren't cheap, but you guys delivered. You over delivered. I 10x'd what I paid for, right? But that's the price you pay for the results that you want. I wasn't expecting like I'm trying to scale this thing to an 8 to 9 figure business, which is gonna revolve around having some pain and sacrifice. I think that's probably what I've done really well in my business is like I've gone all in, right? So I've spent a lot of money. And like I said, I spent $500,000 on coaching. Maybe 10% of those delivered, right? But that 10% outweighs all the bullshit programs I've spent money on. Um, take all the fucking risks. I don't think there is a tactical answer. I don't think it's like let do this one funnel, which is gonna generate millions of dollars. That's not how this thing's gonna work. It's just have A-level people around you, hire people that have more info and experience than you do. Just hire better people. And I think if you hire better people and audit these people and have a system for that, I think you'll do really well. And then you focus as the CEO on the things that you're best at. That's the biggest thing. The theme of this year is just hire and spend the money on the best people, and you focus on the thing you're good at, and that's it. You'll have a successful business, and make sure that you have a great company and you care about your people, and genuinely, like, it's as simple as that. Like, care about people, like genuinely care about your team, care about the students in the program, and I truly do think you'll do really well.
Yeah, and to that end, what do the next 12 months look like for you now that you have this
Yeah.
ability to focus properly?
Um, I definitely think what will be at like a million a year, a million a month. Jesus, a million a year, a million a month, revenue wise. I think that we will probably have a lot of verticals. Like, we'll be working on different offers. Now that the client success department is like running on its own, we can now figure out what the next step. So I have a lot more time now to focus on what we need to work on. But the biggest one will be doing more events for the community, traveling a lot more, doubling down on the marketing because I have more time, and just building other offers and finding ways to just provide more value to the students. So we got a crazy event coming up in Texas in April. So that'll be huge. That'll be our first community event for Learn to Cut. And then we have our $9,800 offer that just launched in December of 2024. So I think that thing will just go to the moon as well. So we're helping a lot of business owners now on scaling their barber shops. With Jordan coming in, we'll probably have a lot of verticals in regards to creating a CRM. So there's a lot of opportunity. I don't want to speak too much on specifics, but we're probably going to triple our business. And the reason why is because we now have a foundation, we have clarity on what we need to do, and we just got to execute it.
Absolutely, man. I gotta say too, I've worked with dozens of 7 and 8 figure coaching businesses, and we've had some really crazy results. These have been uh, one of the most, exponential increases in results that we've seen. The really interesting part about that too is what led to that exponential increase has been pretty small tweaks here and there that have added up to a much larger output. But beyond that, it's happened very quickly. And you and your team, your client success team is my favorite client success team that I've ever worked with, period. They're the most coachable. They care the most as well. And it's just been an absolute pleasure to work with you, your team, and all of your clients who are really cool as well. And so I just want to commend you for the business that you've built, the impact that it has, and what it does for your team as well. It's truly, truly remarkable,
Thank you.
and you're a very, very excellent entrepreneur. And so, yeah, man, it's been a really amazing experience. I'm definitely looking forward to part two of this. When we fast forward 6 to 12 months from now, we'll definitely be hitting 7 figure months. Very excited for that. We have the systems in place to be able to handle that and much more, actually. And so it's just a matter of exactly as you said, we know what to do now. You just got to execute on it. And I think it's,
And then another thing, I want to add a couple more things. One, we had an issue of finding, this is a big one as well, Alex, which is we had an issue on finding client success people, right? Client success managers. But
yep,
because the community has been so strong, now we're getting people asking us for opportunities if they could be if they could be CS.
right.
Um, so that's another crazy thing, which we're trying to be like, who could be our next client success? It's like, no, people are dying to be a part of this company and wanting to work for us, which is huge because now we have a pool of people wanting to do this. So that's another massive addition as well, which was a struggle for us initially. But I want to end this off by saying that this wouldn't have been possible without you, dude. And extremely grateful that sorry, extremely grateful that I found you. And I can't wait to keep working with you and seeing. And obviously, dude, you deserve all the success. Like I say, you and Jordan over delivered. If anyone's listening to this, fuck every other program you've ever thought of. Genuinely, excuse my language. Just jump on a call with these guys. That's all I got to say. Like, I don't even have to sell it. Like, this is literally the best program. These are the best people you could work with. It shows it based on your credentials, and these people truly care, and that's all that matters. Jump on a call with these guys and see what they're about. That's it.
Thank you very much, Alex. And so, want to end this off here. You have a really fucking sick Instagram, and I think it could be pretty inspirational for a lot of people that are going to watch this and to see how they can produce really high quality content that actually converts into sales calls. Because I think people have a challenge with doing that for some reason, especially because the info product space runs off direct response marketing and they don't know what to say. It sounds cheesy or it's just too
Yeah.
salesy or what have you. But your Instagram is immaculate and it works. And so if people want to check it out, maybe perhaps even if for whatever reason they want to get better at cutting hair, or maybe someone in their family, is a barber and they want to, refer them to your program, where can they find you?
Instagram's Alexi Michael. Simple as that. Yeah.
Hell yeah, man. Well, thank you very much for just being transparent and sharing your experience with all the people watching. And dude, yeah, can't wait for what the future looks like. And yeah, I'll see all you guys in the next video. Peace.